Hi again, everyone. Now I'm ready to discuss Leviticus 23:15 and 16 with respect to Shavuot timing. I've taken the interlinear from BibleHub.com, and I've taken the liberty to conform the interlinear to the King James Version as a starting point. The reason I did this is because I got tired of the incompetence of the person who made the online interlinear, and I thought it better to start with an interlinear that conforms to a well-accepted English version. So let's read the King James English. And ye shall count unto you from the morrow after the Sabbath, from the day that ye brought the sheaf of the wave offering, 7 Sabbaths shall be complete. The numbering gives the actual order of the King James. Even unto the morrow after the 7th Sabbath shall ye number 50 days. Okay, I have put the corrections in the line above here, and I will explain them one by one. This, of course, is the grammar line here. Our first word is usfartem, translated and ye shall count. This is future in English, but in Hebrew it's in the perfect. The perfect is indicated because the subject is affixed to the end of the verb, tem, and not to the beginning of the verb, which would be an imperfect. So we translate the perfect, and ye will have counted, using an English perfect, with the helping verb will to indicate that it's a perfect from a future standpoint. For yourselves, lachem, from in the tomorrow of, we'll discuss this word more, memachorat. This is the same translation I used on verse 23:11. Hashavat, the rest, miyom, from the day of your making come, the sheaf of the waving, 7 wreaths, completed ones, they shall be. Lachem is formed by a preposition, lamed, and an object pronoun, chem, unto you, or for yourselves. It's in the plural. From in the tomorrow of, memachorat. In this case, the English translator decided to literally translate the meme as from, which was translated on in 23:11. This varying translation is an important clue as to what went wrong with this text. So let's dissect memachorat. Okay, I've changed the screen here so that we can focus just on verse 15. And ye will have counted for yourselves from in the tomorrow of the rest, from the day of your making come the sheaf of the waving, 7 wreaths, completed ones they shall be. So we're going to dissect memachorat. Memachorat is composed of 3 elements: the preposition me, the base root meaning machar, and a suffix ot. The preposition basically means from or out of. Machar means tomorrow or time to come, and ot is a feminine construct ending. From, morrow, of. Since it's a construct and it's followed by a definite noun, we can put the word the in. From the morrow of. From in the morrow of. There are 2 senses in which the word from can be taken. We can take it extensively. Count 2 days from tomorrow. In this sense, it's extended after the time period mentioned. 2 days after tomorrow is the meaning. Or we can take it in the sense of take time off from tomorrow. In this case, from means from within tomorrow and not after it. The King James translator, by taking it from in this case, was interpreting from in this sense here. Count 2 days from tomorrow. The reason for this is obvious, because the 7th Sabbaths cannot be counted from within the tomorrow or the morrow. They have to be counted after tomorrow. So the King James translator is taking from in an extensive sense. In Leviticus 23:11, the King James translator translated the preposition on. In 23:15, they translated the preposition from. In verse 16, it wasn't translated at all. Clearly, they meant an extensive sense here. Clearly, they mean from within here. So in 23:11, the sense is here, from tomorrow, time from within the morrow, giving a dynamic equivalent sense of on the morrow. In 23:15, they take it in extensive sense. Clearly, this sense here, count 2 days from tomorrow, because the context requires it. 7 Sabbaths are not counted on the morrow, but after the tomorrow. Then the King James translator failed to translate this preposition at all in verse 16. This inconsistency stems from a misunderstanding of the text. The misunderstanding is in the meaning of the word machar. Machar is an ambiguous word in Hebrew. It can mean time to come besides tomorrow or the morrow. There, I have put the ambiguous sense in here. The time after. From the time after of the Sabbath. We can insert it up here and we'll see what I mean. From in the time after of the rest. Literal meaning of Shabbat. Now we see that we can take from within the time after, as in, take time off from tomorrow. Our interpretation of the word from is now the same as in 23:11. From in the time after, that is, from within the period of time, just as in the other case, it's from within the morrow, having a dynamic equivalent sense of on. In verse 16, we will see that we can also use this sense and make good sense of the text. I will discuss that when we get to verse 16. We can take it in from time within, from in the time after of. So we can achieve a consistent translation or interpretation of the meaning by taking morrow, meaning the time after, in two cases, and meaning morrow, the literal next day, in the other case, in Leviticus 23:11. A few Hebrew remarks here. The wav conjunctive is appended as u to the verb because the verb starts with a schwa under the first consonant, and a w would create a double schwa. Therefore, w is converted to u. Usfartem. The accent mark here is on the last syllable. Mimacharat. We see that the mean has a noon assimilation, mean, M-I-N. The noon becomes a dogish in the first consonant of the noun, me, and then the noon changes to a dogish and goes inside the first consonant. The construct is formed by the ot on the end. This is a feminine construct. This is the masculine form of the word here. All right, now I'd like to explain the origin of machar. We have two forms of the same word, memachorat and machar. This is a masculine form, and this is a feminine form. The meaning should be the same. I will be giving two arguments. One does not depend on the meaning difference of machar, the other does. One of the two arguments will solve the problem. Machar is a contraction of yom achar, the mem from yom, and the chet and the resh. Machar. Say it rapidly. Yom achar, yom achar, yom achar. Machar. Yom means day. Achar means after. Day after. We will see that the word yom can also mean time. Thus, time after. Machar can mean time after. The time after, or time to come, in time to come. Machar. This comes from the fact that the word yom can mean time. As in Genesis 2:4, in the day of Yahweh Almighty's making earth and heavens. We see that day stands for 6 days worth of time. In the time of Yahweh Almighty's making earth and heavens. We also see the sense of time in the day of Yahweh. In the day that you eat of it, thou shalt surely die. Day is being used in the sense of time, or a cycle of time. For this reason, we can make the substitution from in the tomorrow of has the same sense as from in the time after of. Since the 7 Sabbaths are counted after that literal morrow, this is the sense that makes sense. We can consistently translate the mean in the sense of from, as in take time off from tomorrow, from within tomorrow, from the tomorrow of, mimachorat, taking tomorrow in the sense of time to come. Even in English, we have this sense, do not worry about tomorrow. What will tomorrow's world bring? These usages of tomorrow mean time to come or in the future, just like the Hebrew sense of machar. From within the tomorrow of, in other words, from within the time after the Sabbath, not specifying the very day after it, but a time period after it, in which 7 Sabbaths may be counted. Let's discuss a few more elements of this text. Miyom, from the day of, this is an infinitive construct here, making come of you, literally, your making come. Your, or you, is definite because it's a pronoun, an object pronoun. Since your is definite, we are justified in putting the before day, from the day of. Yom doesn't have a specific construct form, but short masculine nouns may be in the construct in the meaning sense without altering their form. Your making come. Haviachem. This is in the heful. That's why we have a make here, causative. It's an infinitive. That's why I have an ing here. The root is bo. That's why we have come here. The heful is shown by the yod in the middle root. Chem means your. The 2 dots are the accent on the end of the word. This little bracket is also an accent mark. The accents could all be reduced to a simple accent. Let me show you. They could all be represented by a simple accent like this. The reason the accents are all different is that they are combined with a cantillation system and a punctuation system after the 6th century AD. The punctuation system is also a system of interpretation. So besides it being an accent mark, every accent mark stands for an interpretation or a way of dividing the text up. Usually it's correct, but sometimes it can be incorrect. You see this period here? This is where I believe the sentence should end. And ye will have counted for yourselves from in the time after of the rest, from the day of your making come, the sheaf of the waving, 7 rests, period. Then we have an adjective, substantive, feminine plural, tamimot. This is an adjective, but it's being used as a subject noun. Completed ones, as we see it has a plural ending, mot, tamimot. So complete is the sense of the adjective. Completed ones is as a substantive. In other words, it's acting as a noun subject. Tihyena, the accent is here. They shall be feminine, feminine, feminine. Let's look under here. Adjective, feminine, plural. Adjective, substantive, feminine, plural. Let's look under here. Noun, feminine, plural. Ot, Shabbatot. Noun, common, plural. You see, the one who parsed this text thought that Shabbatot is both feminine and plural. But this is only an interpretation. The actual form is feminine, plural. Let's look under here. We see the Masoretic text put the word Shavah here, which is the non-construct form of the word 7. That may be correct, but I have a feeling that possibly Shiva, which is almost hardly discernible a difference in pronunciation, is correct. Number, masculine construct. Number, feminine singular. But Shiva is not really feminine singular. This is a masculine form. The parser here was only saying that the word was operating as a feminine. But if we change it to a construct, we no longer need to have agreement. 7 of Sabbaths. What is the meaning of they shall be complete? This is clearly talking about 7th-day Sabbaths, ending a regular week. In fact, that's the only way you can have 7 Sabbaths. There's no way these can be festival Sabbaths. But this is specifying further. Also 7 Sabbaths shall be complete, meaning before the 50th day comes, all 7 Sabbaths need to be counted and be complete. The waving of the wave offering. This of actually goes over here. Offering. That's supplied from the context. Words like sin offering, ascending offering, the word offering is always supplied from the context. Or fire offering. The Hebrew actually reads fire, sin, ascending, waving, without the word offering being specified. From in the time after of. Even though this is from within here, we see an extensive use of miyom here. So the parallel context is showing that the result of this has to be extensive. but it doesn't get the result by ascribing an extensive meaning to this mean. The result comes from mahar, meaning time after, or time to come. All right, now I've included verse 16. Ad means until. It has an ah sound. This is an accent mark. That's an ayin. Ad. You want to close your throat a little, you can make the ayin sound. Ad, or ad, until fits better here. Even, or an emphasizing conjunction here, does not belong in the text. Mimachorat, from in the tomorrow of, Shavuot, the rest, Shavuot, the seventh. Tisparu, ye shall number. This is an accent mark here, not a vowel sound. Accent, 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 accent. Hamishim, ha, shim, yom. Literally, Shabbat means the rest, or the cessation. It's talking about the seventh day in this case, since it's the seventh of 7 Sabbaths. Ye shall number. This is an imperfect. The subject is formed from the tav and the wav on the end. This is the second person. This wav with the dagesh in it makes it plural. Second person, plural, masculine. Tisparu. There's always a prefix on the front in the imperfect. Ye shall number. It has a future tense, but it's not a wav consecutive. Ye shall number. Hamishim, a 50th. This is an important consideration in this verse, and that Hamishim can mean either 50 or 50th. If you read Hebrew enough, you can see both senses in Hamishim. This is in large part due to the fact that usually the word year or day, whatever time period follows the number, is in the singular, yom. So it could be 50 days or a 50th day. Clearly we're not counting 50 days after the 7th Sabbath. We're counting a 50th day. The word 40 in Hebrew, also arba'im, can mean 40 or 40th. And similarly with the word for 30, it can mean 30 or 30th. From in the tomorrow of. Since the counting begins after the annual Sabbath, it is often the case that the counting ends not on the literal tomorrow of the 7th Sabbath, but in the time after the 7th Sabbath. So let's show how this is interpreted. From in the time after of the rest, the 7th. So we see how the counting of the 50th day can fall up to a week later after the 7th Sabbath. We see that the meme is interpreted as from within, and also in 23:11. But without this understanding, the translation uses on in 23:11 for the preposition, from in an extensive sense, and not at all in 23:16. This is inconsistent with the usage of mimacharat. It is possible that there is going to be some stubborn resistance to translating mimacharat from in the time after of, but we notice that such a sense seems to be required in verse 15. This sets the context for counting an item of 7 Sabbaths that aren't actually counted on the morrow, as in 23:11, but from in the tomorrow of, meaning from in the time after. There is a second option. If somebody does not want to admit that machar in the form of mimacharat can mean from in the time after of. And that's what I call a code pleading. As we see, in my opinion, this is a misinterpretation of the meme, from the morrow after, because it requires an extensive use of from, which is not seen in usage. However, either this extensive usage is required here, or machar has to mean time to come. Those are the two choices. If we take what I believe is the wrong choice, which the translators are forced to use, from the morrow after, then all we have to do is copy that sense down to here. As you see, they failed to translate the preposition here in verse 16. All we have to do is copy the way it was translated in verse 15. Until from the morrow after, until from the morrow after the rest, the 7th rest, ye shall number a 50th day. In other words, extensive use, just like you have to wait until after the literal morrow here to count 7 Sabbaths. so you have to wait until after the literal morrow here, taking mean extensively. Thus, this would refute the Karaite argument that the morrow automatically has to be a Sunday. The proof that they are wrong lies in verse 15, and this usage from the morrow after, which is required to fit the 7 Sabbaths. The same sense as used in verse 15 is also required in verse 16. Therefore, the counting may begin after the annual Sabbath, which may fall in the middle of a week, and the counting may end on the 50th day in the middle of a week, and does not automatically have to end after the 7th Sabbath, however many days it takes to count 7 Sabbaths, and then to continue out to 50 days. We in a sense might consider the ambiguity of Mimacharat a parable to see if anyone is paying attention to the variations in the meaning. This is a chronological parable. It was solved incorrectly by the Karaites. It was also solved incorrectly by the Rabbis. It was also solved incorrectly by the Rabbis after the Bar Kokhba revolt, for they interpreted 7 Sabbaths as 7 weeks in the Targum of Onkelos by a Jew named Aquila. It is said that Aquila was kicked out of the church for dabbling in astrology. Then he turned to Judaism, so he would have had knowledge of both Christianity and Judaism when he did his work on Targum Onkelos. One of the chief things that some of the disbelieving Jews wanted to do was get rid of the first of the Sabbaths, because it is a key component in Messiah's resurrection.